Hi, this is Bob Iacino from Pat Trading Partners, along with Mike Arnolds for an afternoon Pat Chat covering equities. We covered some of the indices this morning, and now we're going to cover a handful of individual stocks. A couple of things before I give it over to Mike. We had hot inflation data, hot retail sales data, and we had Janet Yellen again saying this time to the House side of Congress, that rate hikes this year will be coming and that March is definitely in play. She implied that. She was questioned a lot on the independence of the Fed in this particular session as opposed to economics. So we did not see a lot of dollar movement. The dollar actually came off a tiny bit, and we saw U.S. stocks kind of power forward. We had another record close in the NASDAQ. It's now 86 or 87. Don't quote me on the exact number of days, but it's in the high 80s that we have not had a 1% move down in the equity market. So stocks continue to be parabolic to the upside. Having said that, not every stock went up. I'm going to give it over to Mike, and he is going to cover Netflix, Visa, Bank of America, Prexel, Citigroup, and JD.com, all stocks that he has active patterns in or new patterns in. So Mike, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bob. All right, Caesars. We had our double play in here. First target, 13.18. Hit it right up the open. That's when we move our stop to break even, and we get out of a portion of it, and then we rallied back up. So this did hit our first target, and now the trade is closed out. So it is off our radar screen. So goodbye. Netflix. Covering Netflix for a few people who keep asking about it. Again, open this morning, right down near the 21 exponential, which we use for our rotation zone, rallied up to the 8 and our prior GAN level, 142.50. That's where we stand now. So we really have two lines in the sand. Yesterday and today's low area in the 21, and then 2 days high, which is the 8. So if we break above that, watch for a possible retest of the highs. And if we break below the 21, watch for the test of the 139 level. Nothing else to talk about there. Visa, we had a potential double. It's now gone up, and it's exceeded our double pattern. So we are taking it off. And it's also hit the levels higher I was going to project for you should that happen. So there's nothing to do right now in Visa. I am taking it off. Let's see. JD.com. This is very interesting. Let me switch to a daily real quick. We have a number of patterns in here. We came down off the rotation zone. We broke out of some prior resistance, came down, tested the rotation zone, gone higher. It does have earnings sometime next week. Let me switch back to a weekly. Here are some of the GAN levels where you're also above this declining trend line. When I go out to a weekly, I have some Elliott wave counts and GAN level projections, and we have this massive gap here that was left behind from way back at the end of 2015. So looking at these levels, next major levels high that we're going to be targeting, and this is a longer term play. 30.66, we can have rotations come in too. So the only way that this is really invalidated is if we get a close below the 21 on the weekly basis. 30.66 to 30.74 is another key cluster. Then we start filling the gap. Next key cluster of GAN levels are around 31.54 to 31.65. Then we have an Elliott wave projection and end of a clear path move, and more GAN levels coming in right around 32.45 to 32.65. So in here, there's going to be significant resistance. If we then continue higher, another key GAN level and a possible alternate Elliott wave count around the 33.37. So that's what we will be watching. Would not be surprised, though, if we did return and pull back, especially on a daily basis at some point, to retest this prior support level rising rotation zone. So that's what we're watching for on there. Bank of America continued higher. It's now hitting all our levels on this channel breakout, which we didn't get to call out for you. But if it does continue higher, watch for major some resistance at the 24.87. One that's been also interesting is Citibank. We had a double down here on a daily basis. It did not trigger by the time it had triggered, it had already moved to target, so there was no trade for us, but it still has completed the pattern. So just wanted to point that out. We couldn't get in, but it did complete the pattern. I'm watching for retests of these last prior highs. We have a very interesting Elliott wave count on this too. If we get above these prior highs, we have a nice 1, 2, 3, 4 pullback into the weekly rotation zone. If banks continue to run, one of the ones I'm watching is Citigroup, because it could reach up around to the 68.55 level on a weekly basis. We're also forming a potential double top here on a weekly basis. So if we were to turn back down and get a move below the base, which would also be a close below the 21, this wave count would be off. So that's what would invalidate the pattern. If we even go out to a monthly chart, we're all the way down here. Even if we hit this 5 wave, it looks like it can, that's a lot higher. But look, compared to where it was back in 2008. This is just a blip on the radar. We have a monthly clear path move, which this could run and make multiple rotations. So that's what I'm watching for should banks remain strong. But if we do get weakness in this, we might have a play both ways. Finally, PRXL. Interesting. Had a pretty big gap down. Now it's filling the gap. We've run up. We've hit a lot of key GAN levels. If we continue higher on this gap fill, next target 68.33, next target 69.66, which would fill the gap. The 69.66 also comes in with a prior other GAN level on a retracement of 69.68. And where we've hit to now, 69.99, came in with the 67.03 key GAN clusters. Been getting a lot of questions why we use GANs versus Fib. I found they're a little more reliable. I just happen to call them. They're actually harmonics, 12.5% harmonic levels that I've worked with for years because they provide some nice rotation levels back and forth. So that's why we tend to use those. But if you prefer Fib levels, they line up very closely with a number of Fib levels. So that's all I have to say on that. Back to you, Bob.
Thanks, Mike. Money Path Podcast. Type it into your iTunes search bar and subscribe to it, or you can find it at our website, pathtradingpartners.com. Speaking of our website, shoot us an email from the support email that's there. If you can't find it, it is support@pathtradingpartners.com. And please subscribe to these videos, the YouTube videos. Hit the subscribe button, the like button, and follow us on Twitter as well at pathtradingpartners.com. Cheers, guys. Thanks again for watching.